Hey there, fellow insomniacs, Cozy Historian here. You want to know why nobody can find Genghis Khan's grave? I'll give you 40 reasons, and those reasons are 40 elite warriors who went from conquering the world to erasing themselves from it. Tonight, you become one of them. You'll start in 1219, riding across continents like death itself, answering to no one but your Khan. You'll end in 1227, kneeling in blood-soaked grass, closing your eyes as your childhood friend draws his bow. Well, that's tonight's extremely questionable bedtime story. So make yourself comfortable with this deeply uncomfortable tale. Drop a comment about where you're listening from, and whether it's technically tomorrow already. I'm endlessly fascinated by who else finds comfort in stories about people erasing themselves from history. Now, let's set the scene. Close your eyes and drift back 800 years. You wake to the sound of 10,000 horses breathing in the pre-dawn darkness. Your name is Batu. It means firm in the old tongue. Though right now, the only thing firm about you is your resolve not to freeze to death. The year is 1219, though you don't think of it that way. You measure time in seasons, in campaigns, in how long since the last gathering of the tribes. Your eyes snap open, not groggily, because grogginess gets you killed, to see your breath misting in the air inside your gur. That's your felt tent, held up by a collapsible wooden frame that can be packed in minutes and set up even faster. It's basically the world's first mobile home, except instead of retiring to Florida, you're conquering Asia. The cold hits different here on the steppe. It's not the wet cold of settled lands that seeps into your bones. This is dry cold, sharp cold, the kind that preserves meat and clarifies thoughts. -30 on a bad day, which would literally kill most modern humans, but you barely notice. Your body adapted to this before you could walk properly. You're lying on sheepskins piled over felt rugs, which sounds cozy until you realize those skins haven't been washed since. Actually, they've never been washed. Washing is for people with excess water and time, neither of which exist in your world. The smell is its own ecosystem. Smoke from dried dung fires, fermented mare's milk, mutton fat, sweat, and that particular musk that comes from sharing space with someone who also hasn't bathed since the last river crossing. Your shield brother is already up, which means you overslept by about 30 seconds. The Chinese are building more walls, Batu. His morning observation makes you grunt acknowledgement while rolling out of bed. Your body protests. You're 25 winters old, which makes you a veteran in an army where boys ride before they walk. Yesterday's ride was only 60 miles, nothing compared to the 100-mile days during urgent campaigns. But your lower back is staging a formal complaint. The Mongol life is hard on bodies. Most warriors don't see 40 winters. Then again, most of your enemies don't see tomorrow, so it balances out. Your possessions take about 12 seconds to inventory, because you own exactly what a warrior needs. Your Delair wool robe that serves as coat, blanket, and sometimes bandage, leather boots with upturned toes, perfect for stirrups, terrible for walking, but who walks, felt cap, and the tools of your trade. 2 bows, because 1 is death. 60 arrows, because 59 might not be enough. A sword you rarely use because if enemies get that close, something has gone terribly wrong. A knife for everything else. Outside the Jer, the camp is already stirring with that practiced efficiency that makes other armies look like they're moving underwater. No shouted orders, no chaos. Everyone knows their job because the alternative is letting down your unit of 10, which means death, or worse, shame. The camp stretches beyond sight in the pre-dawn gloom. Not a city. Cities are for people who've given up on life, but something more organic. 10,000 gurs arranged by units. 10 warriors to a squad, 10 squads to a company, 10 companies to a regiment, 10 regiments to a tumen. It's decimal organization that would make modern militaries weep with envy. You can find any warrior among 100,000 in minutes, just by knowing his unit designation. You make your way to the horse lines, where the real wealth of the Mongols lives. Each warrior has 5 mounts, not for show, but for survival. You rotate them throughout the day, ensuring you always have a fresh horse while others rest. It's this simple system that lets you cover distances that destroy other armies. Your horses aren't pretty. Short, stocky, with heads too big and legs too short by Persian or Chinese standards. But these animals are tougher than boiled leather. They survive on grass alone, find water by smell, and can run until their hearts burst if you ask them to, which sometimes you do, because war doesn't care about your feelings. They're basically the Toyota Corollas of the ancient world. Not pretty, but they'll outlast civilization itself. Your squad leader approaches with that bow-legged walk all horsemen develop. He's a grizzled veteran of 40 winters, old enough to remember when Temujin was just another ambitious clan leader. His face carries the kind of news that makes men check their weapons. The Khwarezm Shah killed our merchants, all of them. This is bad news. In the Mongol world, merchants are sacred. They carry goods, yes, but more importantly, they carry information. They're the nervous system of the empire. Killing them is like declaring war on the concept of trade itself. The veteran continues, explaining how the Khan sent envoys to demand justice, how the Shah burned their beards and sent them back. You actually whistle at that. Not killing envoys is one of those universal rules, like not poisoning wells or not eating your horse unless you're literally dying. The Shah either doesn't understand what he's done or doesn't care. Either way, he's about to receive an education in why the Chinese call you the Devil's Horseman. The horn sounds, not the brass horns of settled armies, but the deep haunting note of an Urag horn, carved from wild bull. It's a sound that carries for miles, felt as much as heard. Time to move. Your wife appears with fermented mare's milk, Arag in summer, kumis in winter, both alcoholic enough to warm your gut but not cloud your mind. Kumis is basically horse milk that's been left to ferment until it develops an attitude problem. It tastes like liquid cheese mixed with bad decisions, but it's nutritious and keeps you warm. She's pregnant with your second child, moving with that careful grace of women who've learned to ride while carrying the future. Your first son, barely 3 winters, watches from her hip with eyes already tracking movement, like a warrior. She mentions the shamans threw bones last night, says this war will last years. You reply that they always say that, but you both know the shamans are rarely wrong. They read signs in everything, flight patterns of birds, cracks in burned sheep bones, the way smoke rises from sacred fires. It sounds like superstition, until you've seen them predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. She hands you dried meat and milk curd, breakfast and lunch in one handful. Mongol cuisine, portable, practical, and designed to last forever, even if it tastes like it already has. You'll eat in the saddle, like always. Stopping for meals is what farmers do. The camp transforms with stunning speed. What takes settled people hours takes you minutes. Gers collapse into neat bundles. Possessions disappear into saddlebags. Carts materialize for the elderly and supplies. Within the time it takes the sun to climb a hand's width, a city of 10,000 becomes a river of horses and humans flowing west. You fall into position automatically. Light cavalry on the flanks, heavy cavalry protected in the centre, supplies and families between. It looks chaotic to outsiders, this massive movement of animals and people. They don't see the invisible threads of organisation, the flag signals that ripple information faster than any messenger, the way units flow around obstacles like water while maintaining formation. The Khan rides with his generals today, visible to boost morale. Even at distance, you can see the weight of command on him. Temujin, who became Genghis Khan, universal ruler, through will and genius, and a frightening amount of bloodshed. He's over 50 winters now, ancient by warrior standards, but his mind remains sharper than any blade. Your shield brother rides beside you, and you both fall into the comfortable silence of men who've shared too many campaigns to need words. Every warrior remembers their first real battle, like they remember their first woman, with a mixture of embarrassment and life-changing clarity. Yours was against the Jin dynasty of northern China, back when their armies still thought heavy armor and rigid formations could stop horse archers. You were 16, convinced you'd die gloriously. Instead, you spent most of the battle trying not to soil yourself while shooting arrows at distances that made Chinese crossbowmen weep with envy. The landscape rolls past in waves of brown grass. To farmers, this looks like wasteland. To you, it's a map written in vegetation. That type of grass means good grazing. That colour means water within a day's ride. Those birds circling mean death, either past or future. You read the land like Chinese scholars read their books, except your education keeps you alive. Why are we attacking Khwarazm when they're so far away? The young warrior's question makes your squad leader point at you. You take the teaching role, because that's how knowledge passes in an oral culture. The Shah controls the Silk Road through Persia. Every trader who wants to move goods from China to the Mediterranean pays him taxes. He's gotten fat on gold that should flow freely. Also, he killed your people. The squad nods understanding. Mongols are refreshingly honest about motivations. Honor, revenge, economics, they're all just different faces of survival. The Khan doesn't pretend otherwise, which is why men follow him through hell. That, and the fact that disobedience means your entire unit dies, which tends to focus loyalty wonderfully. By midday, you've covered 40 miles without really trying. Your Chinese enemies used to exhaust themselves marching 10 miles in armor. Persian armies manage maybe 15 before needing to camp. But you grew up measuring distance in days, not miles. Your horses eat grass as they walk. You eat in the saddle. You can even sleep while riding, a skill that sounds impossible until necessity teaches it. The scout reports start coming in. The Khwarezm Empire is vast, from the Caspian Sea to the Hindu Kush Mountains. 200,000 soldiers, they say, cities with walls 40 feet high, Greek fire that burns on water. Elephants in the southern provinces, though that might be traders' exaggeration. None of this concerns you particularly. Cities fall, walls crumble, fire burns out. As for elephants, they're just very large targets for arrows. The Mongol way is simple. What we can't conquer directly, we conquer indirectly. What we can't break, we bypass. What we can't defeat, we outlast. Your squad leader shares intelligence from other veterans. The Shah has split his forces and garrisons in every city instead of one united army. He thinks walls will save him. This is the best news you've heard all day. Concentrated forces might pose a problem. Scattered garrisons are just future corpses waiting for collection. The Khan will eat them piecemeal, turning the Shah's strength into weakness. As afternoon fades, you encounter the first refugees, farmers mostly, fleeing west with whatever they can carry. They've heard the Mongols are coming and decided not to wait for specifics. Smart, if cowardly, they scatter at your approach like ground birds, abandoning possessions in their panic. The young warrior starts to speak, probably about to ask if you should help or harm them, then stops. He's learned that questions about mercy mark you as weak. Your squad leader states the orders, simply, no harassment until enemy territory. This is new. In the old days, before the Khan's laws, raiders took what they wanted from whoever had it. But the Yasa, the Khan's great code, changed that. Now there are rules, standards. discipline that turns savage horsemen into an empire. You can still kill anyone who resists, but random slaughter is wasteful. Dead farmers can't pay taxes. Camp again as darkness falls. The routine is so ingrained, you could do it blind, which sometimes you do, because fires mark positions for enemy scouts. Your gear goes up in minutes, the felt walls blocking wind that would kill exposed sleepers. Dinner is the same as breakfast: dried meat, dried milk products, maybe some wild onions if you're lucky. Warriors from settled lands complain about the monotony, the ones who've joined voluntarily or been absorbed from conquered armies. They learn to shut up after a few weeks, or they learn what hunger really means. Tomorrow, we cross into enemy territory. Rules change. Your squad leader's announcement during the evening briefing is matter of fact. Anyone not surrendering becomes an enemy. Prisoners only if they have useful skills. No rape without officer permission. No private looting. Everything goes to unit shares first. These are the professional constraints that separate Mongol armies from simple raiders. Not morality, you lost that luxury somewhere between your first battle and your 10th. But efficiency, discipline, the knowledge that controlled violence achieves more than chaos. You clean your weapons in dying firelight. Check each arrow for straightness, each fletching for damage. Your bow gets special attention, the composite construction of horn, sinew and wood that takes years to make and minutes to ruin. It's ugly compared to the self-bows other cultures use, but it can punch through armour at distances that make those pretty bows look like toys. The young warrior watches you work, clearly wanting to ask about tomorrow's fighting. Your shield brother saves you from answering by explaining the Mongol way: no heroic charges, no single combat, just turning armies into arrow cushions from 300 yards away. Other cultures celebrate individual warriors proving valour against each other. Mongols think that's the stupidest thing they've ever heard. Why fight fair when you can fight smart? Why match strength against strength when you can use mobility against rigidity? You've seen it countless times now. Heavy cavalry charges expecting to smash into Mongol lines, only to find those lines evaporating like morning mist. Foot soldiers forming squares against horses that never come close enough to threaten. Armies exhausting themselves chasing shadows while you pick them apart from range. Glory is for dead men, boy. Living men collect loot and father children. Your words to the young warrior carry the weight of experience. He nods, processing this wisdom. You were the same at his age, head full of songs about heroes. Reality has a way of beating that out of you. Heroes die. Professionals survive and prosper. The stars emerge in the vast steppe sky, unmarred by city smoke or mountain shadows. You know these constellations like old friends: the hunter, the horse, the bow. They've guided your people for generations before the Chinese taught you their calendar, and the Muslims shared their mathematics. Tomorrow, you cross into enemy lands. In a week, maybe two, you'll reach the first real city, Otrar, where this all started with murdered merchants. The Khan will offer them one chance to surrender. They'll refuse, because city people always think walls mean safety. Then the real work begins. Not the glorious battle the young warrior imagines, but the grinding mathematics of siege warfare. Except Mongols don't do sieges the way others expect. No sitting outside walls for months while disease and starvation work both ways. The Khan learned from Chinese engineers, Muslim mathematicians, and every conquered people who had something to teach. Now Mongol armies carry catapults that break down into horse-portable pieces, Chinese fire weapons that turn wooden gates into smoking ruins, engineers who can divert rivers to flood cities or undermine walls to collapse them. Every adaptation of settled warfare improved and mobilized. But that's next week's problem. Tonight, you have what every warrior needs: a full belly, maintained weapons, and brothers who'll die for you as readily as you'll die for them. The empire you're building will reshape the world, though you don't think in those terms. You think in tomorrow's march, next week's battle, the gold that'll buy your son a better bride price. Somewhere to the west, the Khwarezm Shah sits in his palace, probably assuring his generals that nomad horsemen can't threaten real civilizations. He's about to learn what the Jin dynasty learned, what the Tanguts learned, what every real civilization learns eventually. Walls can't stop ideas, and the Mongol idea is simple. The world is either Mongol or soon to be Mongol. You fall asleep to the sound of 10,000 horses breathing in the darkness, the same sound that'll wake you tomorrow. But between now and then, you dream. Not of glory or gold, but of that day 8 years from now, when you'll stand in mountain snow with 40 other men, watching them dig a grave that'll swallow your future, along with your Khan. But that's a nightmare for another time. Tonight, you're young, strong, and part of the most successful military machine in human history. The world is yours for the taking. If only you knew what taking it would cost. Dawn comes with the taste of dust and destiny. You've crossed into Khwarezm territory during the night, and even the air feels different, heavier, like it knows what's coming. The grassland is giving way to cultivated fields, which means you're approaching civilization, which means you're approaching victims. The first village appears on the horizon like a bad joke. Maybe 50 mud brick houses clustered around a well, surrounded by fields of barley that'll never see harvest. The inhabitants are already fleeing, a stream of humanity flowing west with whatever they can carry. Smart ones. The stupid ones are barricading doors, as if wood can stop what's coming. Your squad leader signals halt. Standard procedure, let the main army catch up before engaging. No point wearing out your horses on farmers. Save energy for real opponents, though you're starting to wonder if Khwarezm has any. The refugees pass close enough that you can see their faces. Terror, mostly, mixed with the particular exhaustion that comes from abandoning everything you've ever known. An old man struggles with a cart that's lost a wheel. A woman carries twins who can't be more than 3 summers old. A boy about your son's age clutches a wooden sword, glaring at you with hatred that would be adorable if it weren't so doomed. They've heard stories about Mongols. Everyone has. How you drink blood, only ceremonially, and only enemies. Eat babies, absurd, babies have no meat. And worship demons, Tengri is the eternal blue sky, thank you very much. The stories are mostly lies, but lies that work in your favour. Fear is a weapon that strikes before you even arrive. First time seeing civilians run, Batu? The voice belongs to an older warrior from another squad, scarred from temple to jaw. He's maybe 35 winters, which makes him ancient in warrior years. The fact he's survived this long means he's either very lucky or very good. The scars suggest good. You've seen civilians before, of course, but usually after battles, when they're already sorted into categories: useful, kept, useless, ignored, or resistant, dead. Watching them flee in anticipation is different. It's like watching deer before the hunt. All nervous energy and wasted motion. The main force arrives by midday, a dust cloud that blocks out the sun, followed by the thunder of 200,000 horses. The Khan has divided his army into 4 main groups, each led by one of his most trusted generals. You're with Jebe, the arrow, called that because he always finds his target. He's not even Mongol by birth, used to fight against the Khan until he switched sides. Now, he's one of the most feared commanders in the army. The Khan promotes talent, not bloodlines. The village headman comes out to meet the advance guard. He's shaking so hard his ceremonial hat keeps sliding off. Behind him, a small group of elders tries to look dignified, while obviously wanting to run. The headman offers tribute, grain, gold, women. Standard desperate bargaining from someone who doesn't understand he has nothing to bargain with. The translator, a Persian who joined after his city fell, explains the Khan's terms. Simple, total submission, provides supplies, guides, and information about nearby cities. In return, the village lives. Refuse or resist, everyone dies. No negotiations, no exceptions. You've seen this play out dozens of times. Sometimes they submit immediately. Sometimes they try to negotiate. Sometimes they do something catastrophically stupid. This headman falls into category 3. He mentions that the great Shah will protect them, that Mongol dogs will be driven back to their grasslands. The translator doesn't even finish converting the words before the squad leader's arrow takes the headman through the throat. The elders scatter like chickens. Most don't make it 10 steps. What follows is mechanical. No fury, no hatred, just professional elimination of resistance. Your squad doesn't even dismount. Arrows for runners, lances for anyone stupid enough to stand and fight. The wooden sword boy charges you, screaming in his child's voice. Your horse sidesteps without being directed. Even the animals are veterans. Someone else's arrow drops him before he gets close. Small mercy. Would have been your job otherwise. The useful are separated from the useless with practiced efficiency. Craftsmen, young women, healthy children, assets, old men, injured, anyone who looks troublesome, liabilities. Mongol practicality at work. You're building an empire, not running a charity. The grain stores are catalogued and marked for collection. The well is tested for poison. Sometimes they try that, thinking it'll slow you down. Doesn't work. Mongols carry their own water, and engineers can dig new wells faster than defenders can poison them. Every trick has been tried. Every counter has been developed. By sunset, the village is processed. The useful are loaded onto carts, heading for distribution among the army. Craftsmen will be sent east, added to the growing collection of skills the Khan accumulates. Women will become wives or slaves, depending on looks and temperament. Children young enough will become Mongols. The Khan is building for the future, not just the present. The rest. Smoke rises from burning homes as darkness falls. No point leaving infrastructure for enemies to reuse. The Mongol way is efficient. What serves the empire lives, what doesn't burns. Tomorrow, this village will be a memory and char marks. Next season, grass will grow through the ashes. The cycle continues. You make camp upwind from the smoke. Your gur goes up with the same efficiency as always, though now it includes small trophies. A better knife from a dead farmer. A silver coin from someone's hidden stash. Nothing major. Real loot comes from cities. This is just the appetizer. Dinner includes fresh bread taken from the village. It's still warm, probably baked this morning by women who are now property or corpses. It tastes better than your usual dried rations, though you notice the young warrior from yesterday doesn't eat much. First village is always hardest. He'll adapt or die. Everyone does. The strategic briefing is more interesting than usual. Scouts report Otra is 2 days away, walls 40 feet high, garrison of 20,000. The governor, who started this by killing the merchants, is still there, probably wondering if those walls are high enough. They're not, but let him hope. More interesting is news from other divisions. The Khan himself is moving on Bukhara, one of the great cities. His youngest son, Tolui, is heading for Merv. Chagatai and Ogaday, the middle sons, are sweeping through the northern provinces. It's coordinated destruction on a scale the world has never seen. 4 hammers falling at once, shattering an empire that took centuries to build. You clean your weapons with extra care tonight. City fighting is different from village suppression. Walls create choke points. Streets funnel movement. Buildings hide archers. It's the kind of warfare Mongols traditionally avoid, but the Khan adapts, always adapts. The Chinese engineers are preparing something special for Otrar. You watch them work by firelight, mixing powders that smell like sulfur and death. Fire arrows. One explains through a translator, make walls irrelevant. He demonstrates with a small amount, the flash blinds you for moments. The sound makes horses rear. Imagine that scaled up, packed into hollow shells, flung by catapults. Imagine stone walls trying to stop chemistry. Sleep comes harder after village days. Not from guilt, that's a luxury you can't afford, but from the faces. They accumulate over campaigns, filling quiet moments. The wooden sword boy features tonight, which is annoying. You didn't even kill him, but his face joins the collection anyway. Another ghost in an army that creates them wholesale. You dream of your own son, safe with the supply train. In 8 years, he'll be the young warrior's age, asking questions about glory and hesitating before his first massacre. You hope he's smarter than Wooden Sword Boy. You hope he understands that in the empire business, you're either collector or collected. No third option exists. Morning brings new purpose. Otrar waits, and with it, real warfare. No more farmers with delusions. The governor has professional troops, walls, supplies for a siege. He probably thinks he's ready. Everyone thinks they're ready until they see what Mongol preparedness actually looks like. The march is different now. Word has spread about yesterday's village. The countryside empties before you arrive. Smart saves arrows. The Khan prefers fear to do his work when possible. Every refugee who reaches Otrar with stories of Mongol brutality is worth 10 soldiers. Fear multiplies, terror compounds. By the time you arrive, half the garrison will be shaking. A merchant caravan appears on the road, heading east. They freeze at the sight of your column, probably calculating whether to run, fight, or bargain. The smart money is always on bargain. Merchants understand the Khan's perspective. Goods must flow, information must travel. Kill soldiers, spare traders. It's basic economics. Your squad leader rides forward to negotiate. The lead merchant is sweating through his silk robes, but he's smart enough to bow properly. He offers information eagerly. Otrar's garrison is terrified. The governor is promising rewards for anyone who fights, but most soldiers are planning to desert. The walls are strong, but food is already being rationed. Fear of siege is almost as effective as siege itself. The merchant also mentions something interesting. The Shah isn't coming to defend his cities. He's pulling back, afraid to face the Mongols in open battle, abandoning his governors to die behind their walls while he preserves his main army. It's strategically sound, but politically disastrous. Nothing destroys loyalty faster than abandoned subordinates. In exchange for information, the caravan is allowed to pass. They'll spread word of Mongol reasonableness to traders, Mongol brutality to everyone else. The Khan understands that different messages serve different purposes. Nuance is for negotiation. Terror is for conquest. By afternoon, Otrar's walls appear. They're impressive by farming standards. Mud brick reinforced with timber, towers every 100 yards, a decent moat. The governor has prepared well. Soldiers crowd the battlements. The gates are sealed. They've even cleared buildings outside the walls to deny cover to attackers. Too bad none of that matters anymore. The Mongol army spreads around the city like water, finding its level. Not a solid ring, that would be wasteful. Instead, camps positioned to control every road, every path, every possible escape route. The city is sealed more effectively than if you'd built a second wall around it. You're assigned to the eastern approach, where the main gate faces. It's an honor. This is where the primary assault will come. Your squad takes position just outside arrow range, close enough to see defenders' faces, but far enough to avoid lucky shots. You count roughly 3,000 soldiers on this section of wall alone. Good. More glory to share. The Chinese engineers begin their work immediately. Catapults assembled from pre-cut pieces, each timber numbered in their strange writing. By nightfall, the first stones are flying. Not at the walls yet, that would be premature. Instead, they target buildings inside, markets, temples, anywhere people gather. The message is clear: walls can't protect what matters. The psychological phase begins. Riders circle the city just outside arrow range, shouting offers in Persian. Desert now, live as slaves. Stay and die as heroes. Individual soldiers can surrender. Units can defect. The governor's head is worth safe passage for 100 men. Standard Mongol negotiation: divide, terrify, conquer. You take your turn riding the circuit, though you don't speak Persian. Your presence is message enough. The defenders can see your equipment, your confidence, your complete lack of concern about their walls. Some shoot arrows that fall laughably short. You collect a few, add them to your quiver. Insult to injury, their own arrows will return with interest. Night falls, but the bombardment continues. The Chinese have taught you that sieges don't stop for darkness. Stone crashes into buildings with sounds like thunder. Fires start and spread. The defenders rush to fight flames instead of preparing for assault. Every exhausted firefighter is one less soldier tomorrow. Your squad maintains watch in shifts. 2 hours on, 4 hours off. Standard siege routine. You've learned to sleep through bombardment, wake instantly at changes in rhythm. The young warrior takes his turn without complaint, though you notice him flinching at each catapult strike. He'll learn. Stone is just noise until it hits you. Near dawn, something changes. The bombardment stops. Sudden silence after hours of crashes feels wrong, makes everyone alert. Then you hear it, screaming from inside the city, not battle screams. These are different. Higher pitched, desperate. Plague corpses, the scarred veteran explains, appearing beside you like a ghost. Engineers have been saving them for days. You've seen this tactic before, but it never gets less disturbing. Bodies of disease victims, human or animal, flung over walls by catapult. Sometimes they burst on impact, spreading corruption. Sometimes they land intact, requiring defenders to handle them. Either way, disease enters the city. Another Chinese innovation adapted to Mongol purposes. The screaming continues as dawn breaks. Now smoke rises from multiple fires inside the walls. The bombardment resumes, but differently. Incendiary shells that splash liquid fire, more Chinese chemistry. Defenders who rush to fight flames get burning oil that water spreads instead of dousing, chaos compounds. By full daylight, you can see the effects. Sections of wall are undermanned as soldiers fight fires or flee disease. The governor still has troops on the main approaches, but they're stretched thin. Fear shows in their movements, jerky, uncertain, constantly looking over shoulders. Tomorrow, real fighting starts, Batu. The scarred veteran's words are matter of fact. Today was preparation. Tomorrow, the walls fall. You've seen the engineers placing charges at the base of walls, under cover of darkness and arrows. Seen them digging, sapping tunnels that will drop whole sections into rubble. Seen them preparing the final surprises that turn stone fortifications into death traps. You spend the day maintaining equipment and watching defenders crack. A few try to desert, rappelling down walls at night. Your squad catches most. Quick deaths for soldiers. The Khan respects courage, even in enemies. Officers are saved for public execution. Examples must be made. The young warrior, asks why not attack now, while they're weakened. You explain the mathematics. Every day of bombardment kills dozens of defenders at no cost to you. Every fire exhausts their resources. Every plague corpse spreads fear worse than death. Why spend Mongol lives when time and terror work for free? He's learning the difference between bravery and intelligence. Any fool can charge walls. It takes wisdom to make walls irrelevant. The Khan conquers with minds as much as muscles. Why be heroic when you can be efficient? As darkness falls again, you know tomorrow brings the real test. Not of courage, Mongols have plenty, but of the new warfare the Khan has created, where Chinese knowledge meets Mongol mobility, where Persian walls meet chemistry they don't understand, where an empire learns that tradition and stones can't stop evolution. The governor of Otrar probably isn't sleeping tonight. He's walking his walls, trying to encourage troops who've spent 2 days watching their city burn piece by piece. He still thinks walls mean something. Tomorrow, he learns otherwise. You sleep well, despite the continuous bombardment. Tomorrow promises to be educational. For the defenders, it'll be a short lesson. For you, it's another day building an empire that makes Rome look like a tribal raid. The wooden sword boy appears in your dreams again. Still charging, still dying, still pointless. You're getting annoyed with his persistence. Even your ghosts should know when they're beaten. The morning of assault arrives with unusual quiet. No bombardment, no shouting. Just 10,000 Mongols checking weapons in pre-dawn darkness. The silence is deliberate. Let the defenders wonder what's coming. Let them lean over walls, straining to see through gloom. Let exhaustion and anticipation do half your work. You're in the first wave, an honour that tastes like copper and ambition. Not the very first. The privilege goes to Chinese conscripts and prisoners from yesterday's catches. They'll absorb the arrows, trigger the traps, show you where defenders concentrate. Mongols are practical about sacrifice. Why waste proven warriors when you have perfectly good bodies that need disposing anyway? The signal comes as dawn breaks, too, not a horn or shout, but the whistle of 1,000 arrows, rising like birds startled from grass. You draw and release in the smooth motion practiced since childhood, aiming for the battlements where defenders crouch. Most duck behind stone, but some are slow, some are unlucky. Bodies tumble from walls, creating gaps that won't be filled. The conscript charge begins immediately. Poor bastards run at the walls with ladders and grappling hooks, screaming to give themselves courage. The defenders, relieved to finally face something they understand, pour arrows and stones down. Conscripts fall in windows, creating meat carpets that actually help, softer to land on than bare ground. Watch the gates, Batu. Something's happening. The scarred veteran points to where the main gates are opening. Not fully, just enough to let cavalry charge out. The governor must be desperate, trying to break the siege with a sortie. About 500 horsemen, heavy cavalry in scale armour. They look impressive. They're about to look dead. This is what Mongols dream about, enemy cavalry in open ground. Your squad wheels without orders, joining the dance every Mongol knows. Let them come, let them commit, then flow around them like water around a stone. They charge expecting impact, finding only air and arrows. You shoot while riding parallel, your horse matching their speed perfectly. Arrows find gaps in armour, armpits, necks, the spaces between plates. The enemy cavalry tries to wheel, to face you, but you're already elsewhere. Other squads hit from different angles. It's not a battle, it's a demonstration of obsolescence. Within minutes, their charge becomes a rout. Survivors flee for the gates, but those are closing. Defenders won't risk Mongols following them in. Abandoned cavalry mills in confusion until arrows end questions. While this distraction plays out, the real assault begins. Chinese engineers trigger their surprises. The ground near the eastern wall erupts. Not one explosion, but a chain of them, following the sapping tunnels dug over 2 nights. The sound is wrong, not the sharp crack of impact, but a deep rumble that you feel in your chest. The wall doesn't fall dramatically. It sags like a tired old man, stones grinding against each other. Then, gravity wins. A 50-yard section simply sits down, creating a ramp of rubble. Dust billows up, hiding details, but you can hear the screaming. Defenders on that section didn't have time to run. Now comes your moment. No heroic charge yet. First, arrows to clear the breach. You empty half your quiver into the dust cloud, aiming for likely positions. The math is simple. Throw enough arrows and you hit something. Other squads do the same. Thousands of shafts disappearing into chaos, each one potentially ending someone's bad day. The dust settles enough to show the breach. It's beautiful, not a vertical gap, but a sloped pile of rubble, perfect for horses. Defenders are trying to form a line behind it, but they're disorganized, shocked. Some are still digging out buried comrades, others flee deeper into the city. A few brave ones stand with spears, as if courage can stop what's coming. The horn sounds. Different note this time. Real assault. You spur forward with 9,000 others, screaming not from fear but from joy. This is what you trained for, lived for. The thunder of hooves drowns out everything else. The world narrows to the breach ahead and the brothers beside you. You hit the rubble at full gallop. Your horse, magnificent animal that it is, barely slows. These ponies scramble up rocky slopes that would stop destroyers. Defenders with spears brace for impact that never comes. You shoot point blank while passing, then you're through into the city proper. Street fighting is ugly work. No room for cavalry maneuvers. You dismount, drawing the sword that rarely sees use. The young warrior stays close, smart enough to know veterans survive for reasons. You work as a unit, clearing buildings methodically. Corner, door, arrow, for anyone inside, move on. Don't chase runners, let other squads catch them. Don't loot yet, secure first, steal later. A group of defenders makes a stand at a market square. Maybe 30 men, proper soldiers with shields locked. They're doing it right, holding position, not breaking formation. Almost admirable. If this were single combat, they might have a chance. But Mongols don't do fair fights. You fall back, letting them feel momentary hope. Then, Chinese fire arrows arc overhead, trailing smoke. They impact on shields, splashing liquid fire that water won't stop. Men scream, break formation to roll on ground. Regular arrows follow, finding gaps that discipline used to cover. The square becomes a charnel house in moments. The governor's palace is obvious. Biggest building, highest walls, most defenders. Already surrounded by Mongol forces, but no one's attacking yet. Orders are to take the governor alive. The Khan wants to make an example. Someone always has to be the example. You're assigned to cordon duty, making sure no one escapes. Boring but necessary. The palace has back gates, servant entrances, probably tunnels. Your squad spreads out, watching for movement. The young warrior asks, why not storm it immediately? You explain patience again. Every hour weakens them, costs you nothing. Let hunger and fear do the work. By midday, the city is effectively fallen. Pockets of resistance remain, but they're isolated, doomed. The systematic phase begins. Every building searched, every person categorized. Useful ones, craftsmen, engineers, anyone with skills, are separated out. Young women, for the obvious reasons, children young enough to forget their parents. Everyone else, well, there's a reason Mongol victories leave ghost cities. You find an old man in a smith's shop, still working his forge. Brave or stupid, hard to tell. He's making arrowheads, which shows either admirable optimism or complete disconnection from reality. Through a translator, he explains he's been smithing for 50 years. His grandfather made weapons for the Shah's grandfather. The squad leader decides, useful. The old smith will join the Khan's growing collection of talent. He seems confused, expecting death, finding servitude instead. Many are surprised that Mongols value skill over everything. Dead craftsmen make nothing. Living ones serve the empire. Simple mathematics. The young warrior finds his first real loot, a silver-hilted dagger in a merchant's house. His eyes shine with excitement until you remind him about unit shares. Everything goes to the collective first, distributed by rank and merit later. He's disappointed, but compliant, learning the rules that separate professional armies from bandits. Screaming from the governor's palace indicates negotiations have failed, or succeeded, depending on perspective. Smoke rises from one wing. Someone inside decided burning was better than surrendering. Happens sometimes. Pride makes people stupid. Fire spreads quickly. These buildings aren't designed for defense against their own flames. The governor himself emerges from a side entrance, trying to escape in servant's clothes. Pathetic attempt. His soft hands and panic give him away. Your squad happens to be closest when he runs. The scarred veteran trips him casually, like stopping a fleeing chicken. The governor babbles in Persian, offering gold, positions, his daughters, all the usual desperate bargaining of the doomed. You help drag him to the collection point where other prisoners wait. He'll get special treatment for killing the Khan's merchants, something creative and public. The Khan understands that fear is most effective when it's specific, memorable, and reported widely. This governor will become a story that makes other governors think twice. The city burns through the night, not randomly, controlled fires that leave useful buildings standing. Granaries, forges, anything serving the empire survives. Temples, palaces, symbols of the old order burn. It's urban planning through destruction, clearing ground for whatever comes next. Your squad gets garrison duty at a captured warehouse. Inside, enough grain to feed a tumen for months. The empire's true wealth, not gold, but supplies. Gold can't eat. Soldiers marching on grain conquer nations. You post guards, check for poison, mark everything for transport. Boring logistics that win wars. The young warrior stares at bodies piled in the street outside. His first city. The smell is getting impressive. Death, smoke, fear-loosened bowels. Cities always smell worse than villages. More people means more corpses, means more stench. He's green around the edges, but holding together. Gets easier, you tell him, which is both true and false. The killing gets easier, the ghosts accumulate. Pick your poison. Dawn brings new orders. Main force moves on to the next city, Bukhara, where the Khan himself leads. Your squad stays for clean-up duty, not glamorous, but necessary. Someone has to finish categorizing prisoners, loading loot, ensuring the city can't be reoccupied. Professional armies handle details amateurs ignore. The governor's execution is scheduled for noon. Public, as expected. You've seen enough to know it'll be creative. The Khan's justice matches the crime. Merchants killed means merchant's death, probably involving molten silver, the traditional punishment for trade violations. Poetic in a horrifying way. You're not required to watch, but go anyway. Discipline means witnessing consequences. The governor looks smaller without his finery, naked except for chains. The executioner explains the process in several languages, silver heated until liquid, poured into eyes and ears. The governor soils himself before they even start. Fear is its own torture. The actual execution is professional. No prolonging for sadism, just efficient application of justice. The governor screams once when the silver pours, then silence. Steam rises from his head. The crowd, prisoners forced to watch, understands the message. Harm the Khan's people, receive the Khan's justice. Simple equation. Afternoon brings inventory duty. The city yielded well. Gold, silver, weapons, food, and most importantly, skilled people. 17 blacksmiths, 43 weavers, a dozen engineers who claim they can improve catapults, even 3 astronomers, though their usefulness seems limited. The Khan collects knowledge like others collect gold. Your share comes to a small fortune by step standards. The silver dagger goes to the young warrior, his first city, first real loot, tradition matters. Your own take includes better arrows, a mail shirt that actually fits, and enough gold to buy another wife if you wanted. You don't. One family following the armies is complicated enough. The systematic killing begins at sunset. Those marked as useless, old, infirm, defiant are herded outside the walls. Efficient process. No torture, no ceremony, just arrows and burial pits. The young warrior participates without enthusiasm, but without hesitation. He's learning that mercy is a luxury armies can't afford. You dream differently after city work, not the wooden sword boy tonight, but the old smith at his forge, making arrowheads while his world burns. The dedication is almost admirable. Or maybe just habit so deep that apocalypse can't break it. You'll see him again in the Khan's service, making weapons for the people who destroyed his city. Irony has sharp edges. 3 days of cleanup, then orders to rejoin the main force. Otrar is done, population reduced by 90%. Walls breached beyond repair, wells poisoned to prevent reoccupation. Another name added to the list of places that used to exist. The governor's head travels separately, preserved in salt, bound for other cities as encouragement to surrender. The ride to Bukhara takes a week through increasingly desolate country. Every village empty, every field abandoned. Word travels faster than armies. Sometimes you find meals still warm in houses, families fled mid-bite. The smart ones. Others hang from trees, where advanced scouts caught them. Examples along the road. You pass other Mongol forces heading different directions. The empire's fist has many fingers, all closing on Khwarezm's throat. News filters through. Samarkand besieged, Urgench surrounded, smaller cities falling like dominoes. The Shah still refuses battle, pulling back, preserving his main force for a confrontation that may never come. Why doesn't he fight? The young warrior asks during a rest. He has more soldiers. You explain the Shah's dilemma. Fight and maybe lose everything at once. Hide and definitely lose everything piecemeal. No good options once the Khan decides your enemies. Should have thought of that before killing merchants. The landscape changes as you approach Bukhara. Irrigation canals speak of civilization, wealth, vulnerability. Farmers who depend on complex water systems can't run like nomads. Destroy the canals, starve the cities. Another lesson in the fragility of settled life. Bukhara appears on the horizon like a jewel about to be crushed. Magnificent walls, towering minarets, gardens, visible even from distance. One of the great cities of the world, centre of Islamic learning, crossroads of trade, about to learn that scholarship and architecture mean nothing to armies that measure value differently. The Khan's main force surrounds it like a steel noose. 200,000 warriors, plus auxiliaries, plus the growing collection of Chinese engineers who turn warfare into mathematics. You've arrived just in time for the show. Bukhara's walls are twice Otrar's height, its defenders 10 times more numerous. Won't matter. Already, You can see the catapults assembled, the siege lines established, the terrible patience of professional conquest settling over the landscape. The city might last a week, maybe 2, if they're exceptionally brave or stupid. Then another name joins the list of places that used to matter. You report to your assigned position, ready for another lesson in the economics of empire. Cities rise over centuries. They fall in days. The math is simple. The Khan has more days than they have centuries. Tomorrow, the real education begins. Bukhara falls in 9 days, not because the walls break, they're too strong for that. Not because the defenders lack courage, they fight like men, with everything to lose. It falls because the Khan understands something the city's rulers don't. Walls only protect what's inside them. The water stops first. Chinese engineers, working with local prisoners who know the canal system, divert the main channels. Within 3 days, fountains run dry. Within 5, people are drinking from cisterns meant for emergencies. Within 7, they're rationing buckets. You can't drink scholarship, can't water horses with philosophy. Then comes the fire, not the crude burning of Otrar, but something more elegant. Fire arrows at night, targeting specific districts. The paper market burns first. Centuries of learning turn to ash and smoke. The defenders rush to save it, exhausting themselves for scrolls. Next night, the granaries. Then the stables. Surgical strikes that bleed the city without touching its walls. You're on mounted patrol when the gates finally open. Not in surrender. That would be too simple. 20,000 civilians pour out, driven by thirst and desperation. The defenders are using them as shields, hoping Mongol arrows will hesitate at killing innocents. They still don't understand. Innocence is a concept for peacetime. This is conquest. Let them through, your commander orders. But check everyone. Smart. Hidden among refugees are probably soldiers in civilian clothes, spies, maybe even assassins. Your squad forms part of the filtering line, women and children to one side, men of fighting age to another. Anyone with soldiers' calluses, weapon scars, or that particular posture of military training gets special attention. The young warrior beside you struggles with the sorting. A boy, maybe 14 summers, claims to be a scholar's apprentice, but his hands are rough from sword work. The boy begs, cries, probably genuinely was an apprentice who learned defense. Doesn't matter. Fighting age is fighting age. Categories are absolute. You find 17 soldiers pretending to be farmers. Their act falls apart under basic questions. They don't know planting seasons, can't explain the calluses wrong for farm work. Quick deaths for honesty, slower for the ones who keep lying. Examples must be made, even in mercy. The real assault begins that night. With civilians gone, defenders spread thinner. The Khan orders simultaneous attacks on all gates. Not to break through, that's expected, defended against. Instead, constant pressure, rotating fresh troops against exhausted defenders. Let them think every attack is the real one. Let them run themselves ragged responding. You're in the 7th wave against the southern gate. By the time you charge, defenders have repelled 6 assaults. They're slower now, arrows less accurate. Your squad's job isn't breakthrough, it's exhaustion. Shoot arrows, retreat, let the next wave come. Mechanical, grinding, the kind of warfare that breaks spirits before bodies. Dawn reveals the masterstroke. While everyone watched the gates, Chinese engineers mined the aqueduct. Not to destroy it, to use it. The tunnel that once brought water now brings Mongols. 500 warriors emerge inside the city, like demons from Earth. By the time defenders understand, internal gates are open. The city's own infrastructure betrays it. What follows is familiar chaos. Your squad pours through, opened gates into streets already burning. Bukhara is larger than Otrar. more complex. Great mosques and schools create defensive positions. Markets become killing grounds. Every intersection could hide ambush. Urban warfare at its ugliest. The young warrior saves your life in a madrasa courtyard. You're checking bodies when a supposed corpse lunges with a hidden knife. The boy's arrow takes him through the neck before you fully register danger. Quick reactions, good instincts. He's learning that survival means trusting nothing, checking everything. Even the dead aren't dead in cities, Batu. His observation makes you grunt approval. Cities breed deception. Too many places to hide, too many ways to pretend. The steppe is honest. Danger announces itself with dust clouds and horn calls. Cities lie with every shadow. The Khan himself enters Bukhara on the third day. You see him from distance, still commanding despite his years, riding through streets carpeted with bodies. He heads for the great mosque, largest building in the city. Word spreads he'll address survivors there. Curiosity wins over caution. You drift that direction. The mosque is magnificent. Columns like forest trees, arches that frame heaven. Space for thousands to pray. Now it holds maybe 300, all that's left of Bukhara's elite. Scholars, merchants, holy men, trembling before the man who broke their world. The Khan speaks through translators, but his meaning is clear. The Shah brought this on them. Resistance brought this on them. Submit to Mongol law, serve the empire, live. Resist and join the corpses outside. Simple choices for complex people who thought walls and wisdom protected them. Then he does something that stays with you. Orders the scholars to bring their greatest books. They comply, hoping to save knowledge. The Khan has each examined. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, these go to special guards for preservation. Philosophy, theology, poetry, these feed bonfires. Practical knowledge serves the empire. Abstract thought burns. You understand the logic but feel something twist, watching centuries of thought turn to smoke. Not guilt exactly, more like watching a different kind of wealth disappear. Gold can be reforged. Knowledge, once burned, is gone forever. But that's not your concern. Your concern is the next city. The systematic phase in Bukhara takes 2 weeks. Longer than Otrar because there's more to process. More people with useful skills, more wealth to catalogue, more resistance to crush. You pull garrison duty at a captured library, watching Chinese scribes copy texts deemed valuable before the originals burn. Strange to see knowledge filtered through imperial needs. Medical texts explaining desert herbs kept. Philosophical debates about the nature of existence burned. Star charts for navigation kept. Poetry about divine love burned. The empire digests what feeds it, discards the rest. Your share from Bukhara is substantial. Gold coins bearing faces of dead kings. A sword better than anything Mongol smiths produce. Damascus steel that holds an edge like frozen moonlight. A coat of scale armour that actually fits. The young warrior gets a horn bow taken from a palace guard, recursive design that draws heavier than his old one. News filters in from other fronts. Samarkand has fallen to the Khan's sons. Urgench still resists, but won't last. Smaller cities surrender without fighting, learning from example. The Shah continues retreating, his army intact but useless. Preserving forces that never fight is like saving water in a broken cup. Then comes word that changes everything. The Khan is sick, not wounded. He's too protected for that. But the years and campaigns are taking their toll. He hides it well, still commanding, still planning. But those close see him tire faster, eat less, delegate more. The unstoppable force is proving stoppable by time. You're summoned to a special unit forming for pursuit of the Shah. Elite cavalry, fastest horses, minimal supplies. The Shah has fled toward the Caspian Sea, possibly planning to escape by ship. The Khan wants him caught. Not for strategic reasons, the empire is already won, for personal ones. The man who started this war won't escape its conclusion. The pursuit force is small, 5,000 riders total. You recognize many faces, veterans from the China campaigns, survivors of 100 battles, men who've proven they can ride hard, fight harder, and keep secrets. That last part matters more than you initially understand. The Khan's personal guard leads this hunt. The scarred veteran explains. We ride until we catch him, or horses die. No delays, no distractions, no mercy. The pace is brutal from the start. 50 miles before noon. Change horses. 50 more by nightfall. No camps, just brief stops to water horses and chew dried meat. Sleep in the saddle becomes necessity, not skill. The landscape blurs, desert, scrubland, the occasional oasis stripped bare by your passing. Villages flee at your approach. Smart ones leave food and water, buying survival with supplies. Stupid ones resist or hide provisions. Quick examples are made. No time for proper sacking, just arrows for fighters and moving on. The Shah is maybe 3 days ahead, gap closing slowly. You catch his rear guard at a river crossing, maybe 200 men, exhausted from matching your pace without your reserves. They form a battle line, brave and pointless. Your force splits without orders, upstream, downstream, frontal charge. Coordinated from years of practice. The fight is brief, ugly, desperate men against professionals. They die buying time for someone who's already abandoned them. You personally kill 3, clean shots, quick deaths. Professional courtesy to fellow soldiers, even enemy ones. The young warrior accounts for 2 more. He stopped hesitating before killing. Progress or decay, depending on perspective. Prisoners are questioned quickly. The Shah is indeed ahead, maybe 30 men remaining. He's sick, the stress and flight breaking a body soft from palace life. His destination is an island, hoping water will stop pursuit. The prisoners don't know which island, doesn't matter. There aren't that many options. No time to properly process prisoners. Quick deaths for all. Mercy, really. Better than leaving them for wolves or worse. Local villagers who've learned to hate anyone associated with the Shah. You mount fresh horses and continue. The sea is close now. Salt smell on the wind. The Caspian appears like hammered metal under sunset. Vast water, impossible for horses. But the Khan prepared for this. Ships wait at the coast, not Mongol vessels, but commanded local boats, crews motivated by gold and threats. The naval phase begins. You've never been on water before. The movement is wrong, making your stomach rebel. Horses are worse, panic at the unnatural motion. Several have to be killed, thrown overboard. The young warrior feeds fish with his breakfast. Even hardened veterans look green. Steppe warriors aren't meant for ocean work. But orders are orders. The small fleet spreads out, checking islands. Local fishermen are questioned, bribed, threatened. The Shah's trail emerges. He's been island hopping, paying vast sums for silence. Gold talks, but fear talks louder. Fresh information points to a small island 2 days north. The approach is dawn, fog covering movement. 20 boats converging on a speck of land. As distance closes, you see movement, men running, trying to launch their own boats. Too late. Mongol arrows work as well on water as land. Their boats burn before reaching deep water. The Shah himself is pathetic. Sick, abandoned by all but closest guards, he barely resembles the man who ruled an empire. When cornered on the beach, he doesn't even fight. Just collapses, coughing blood, already dying from disease and despair. Anticlimactic end for someone who caused so much death. Is this him? The young warrior asks, disbelief clear. Hard to reconcile this broken old man with the mighty Shah of stories. The guard captain confirms identity through seals and scars. This is indeed the man who killed the Khan's merchants, who thought walls and wealth made him untouchable. Now he's dying on a barren island, empire in ruins, legacy becoming a cautionary tale. He dies before you can transport him. Disease, exhaustion, and despair, finishing what Mongol arrows started. The captain orders the body preserved in salt. The Khan will want confirmation. The head is removed, cleaned, prepared for display. Even in death, examples must be made. The return journey is slower. No urgency now. The Shah is dead. His empire is broken. His cities burn or serve new masters. Mission accomplished, though the ending lacks glory. Sometimes conquest ends with battles. Sometimes with an old man coughing out life on an empty beach. You reach the main army as autumn arrives. The Khan receives the Shah's head without emotion, ordering it displayed in conquered cities. Justice for dead merchants, though it seems small compensation for the devastation required to achieve it. But something's wrong. The Khan looks older, moves slower. The sickness rumours are true. He hides it during public appearances, but those close see truth. The force that reshaped the world is fading. Whispers start about succession, about which son will inherit, about whether the empire will hold or fragment. You're assigned to the Khan's personal guard for the journey home, an honour that feels like a burden. You'll watch the world's conqueror fade day by day. Watch the man who turned nomads into an empire become mortal again. Watch history end and legend begin. The empire is won. The enemies are broken. The wealth flows east in endless caravans, but the man who envisioned it all is dying. And with that knowledge comes darker understanding. Some of you will follow him even into death. The greatest secret isn't where he's buried, it's ensuring no one lives to tell. That thought follows you as the army turns toward Mongolia, toward home, toward an ending nobody speaks about, but everyone sees coming. 8 years of conquest, concluding not with triumph, but with a grave that must never be found. The wooden sword boy appears in dreams again, not charging now, just watching, waiting, as if he knows your story ends the same as his: violence, futility, silence. The only difference is, you'll die for something that matters even less than his wooden sword. You'll die to keep a secret about dirt. The journey home begins with a lie. The Khan rides at the column's head, visible to all, commanding as always. Except it isn't him. It's one of his doubles, wearing his armour, maintaining the illusion. The real Khan travels in a covered cart, too weak to mount, too proud to show weakness. Only the innermost circle knows. You know because you're part of the guard rotation that maintains the deception. Winter of 1227 arrives early, as if the sky itself knows what's coming. Snow falls in the passes where snow shouldn't reach yet. Wolves follow the army, in numbers that make even hardened warriors nervous. The shamans mutter about portents, throwing bones that keep showing patterns they don't like. You're 3 weeks from the Mongolian heartland, when the pretense becomes impossible. The Khan can no longer leave his ger, can no longer hide the blood he coughs, can no longer pretend the pain isn't winning. The generals gather for what everyone knows is a final council. Batu inside. The Khan commands. The summons comes at dawn, delivered by the captain of guards. Not a request. You've been chosen for something. The fact that 40 others received the same summons tells you what, even if your mind rebels at the understanding. The Khan's gur is thick with incense that can't quite mask the smell of approaching death. He lies propped on cushions, looking like a shadow of the man who conquered half the world, but his eyes remain sharp, focused, seeing through flesh to the purpose beneath. "My loyal ones," he says, voice barely carrying across the space. "You know what approaches. Not just my death, any fool can die, but what comes after, where I rest, how I'm remembered." He pauses, gathering strength. Around you, 40 of the finest warriors in the Empire stand silent. Men who've never retreated, never hesitated, never failed an order. Now asked for the ultimate service. No monuments, no markers, no maps. The grave must be perfect in its absence, and perfection requires. Another pause, this one heavy with meaning. Dedication. Nobody speaks the obvious. He's asking you to die, not in battle, where death has meaning, not for victory, where death has purpose, but for silence. For the abstract concept that his grave remains unfound. It's insane. It's necessary. It's already decided by your presence here. The shaman enters, carrying a leather bag that rattles with bones. The ritual is older than memory, binding oath to soul. Each warrior steps forward, cuts his palm, lets blood drip onto the bones while speaking the words. "My life for the Khan's death, my silence for his secret, my bones to guard his bones." The young warrior beside you trembles as he speaks the oath. He has a wife now, pregnant with his first child, a child he'll never see. You wonder if he regrets the path that led here. Then his voice steadies, and you know he doesn't. This is what it means to serve. Complete service, even unto death. Your turn. The knife is sharp, the cut clean. Your blood joins 39 others on ancient bones that have sealed countless oaths. The words come easily. You've been preparing for this moment since that first summons. Maybe since that first battle. Maybe since birth. The Khan watches each oath, memorizing faces. These are the last men he'll trust, the ones who'll carry his body home, the ones who'll ensure the Empire's founder becomes myth rather than man. When the last warrior swears, he nods approval. The preparations begin. Tell no one, trust no one outside this circle. When I fall, you know your duty. Dismissed, you stumble into daylight that seems too bright. The camp continues normal routines, unaware that 40 men just signed their death warrants. Your shield brother, from the early campaigns, sees you, starts to approach, reads something in your face that makes him turn away. He knows. Without words, without confirmation, he knows you won't be coming back. The next days blur between maintaining appearances and preparing for the inevitable. The Khan still receives reports, issues orders, plans next year's campaigns, all theatre now. He won't see spring, everyone knows it, but pretends otherwise. You write a letter to your wife, not explaining that would break the oath. Just words about pride in your sons, hopes for their future, practical matters about horses and inheritance. She'll understand when you don't return. Mongol women always understand. The night it happens, the temperature drops so fast that water freezes between bucket and lips. The Khan's breathing, laboured for days, becomes a wet rattle. The inner circle gathers without summons. Death doesn't wait for convenient timing. He dies as he lived, with clarity. No final speeches, no dramatic gestures. Just a look around the ger, a slight nod to his generals, and then stillness. The man who made the earth tremble, departing as quietly as smoke through the roof hole. Immediately, the plan activates. The body is wrapped in white felt, the colour of mourning and purity. The shamans begin preservation rites, salt and herbs and stranger substances that will keep corruption at bay. The double takes the Khan's place in public, maintaining illusion while preparations complete. Your group divides into specialized units, 20 for the escort proper, 10 for advanced scouting and clearing, 10 for rear guard, and eliminating witnesses. You're assigned to the main escort, riding beside the cart that carries the world's conqueror. The route is known only to the shaman guide, and he shares it with no one. North, always north, into lands that grow progressively emptier, away from trade routes, away from settlements, into the sacred mountains where legends say the blue sky touches earth. The first killing happens on day 3. A hunting party, just bad timing, wrong place. 4 men who see the cortege and must therefore die. Your arrow takes the youngest, maybe 16 summers. He looks surprised, then nothing. The bodies are burned, ashes scattered, no trace remains. It gets easier and harder simultaneously. Easier because routine makes everything mechanical. See someone, kill them, burn evidence, continue. Harder because the faces accumulate. A merchant who begged in 3 languages. A family whose children reminded you of your own. A hermit monk who accepted death with such grace you almost envied him. How many so far, Batu? The scarred veteran keeps count on a notched stick. You've stopped tracking individual deaths. They blur together into a singular act of elimination. The number doesn't matter. Only that the trail remains clean. The landscape changes as you climb higher. Trees give way to scrub, then bare rock. The air thins until breathing requires effort. Horses struggle, even these tough steppe ponies. You're entering lands where only spirits and desperate men venture. The burial site, when you reach it, is perfect in its anonymity. A valley between peaks, sheltered but not unique. No landmarks to distinguish it from 1,000 similar valleys. The shaman nods approval. This is the place shown in visions, promised in ancient texts. Digging begins immediately. In this frozen ground, it's brutal work. Chinese fire powder cracks the permafrost, but mostly it's muscle and will. 40 men taking turns, carving a grave from earth that resents the intrusion. Deep enough to discourage animals, deep enough to hide from time itself. As you dig, the shamans tell stories. How the Khan was born clutching a blood clot, marking him for greatness. How he united the tribes through will alone. How he gave laws that turned chaos into order. But also stranger tales. How his spirit will guard these mountains. How his grave carries curses for any who disturb it. The tomb takes 3 days to prepare. Not just a hole, but a proper resting place. Felt hangings depicting his victories. Weapons for the afterlife. Gold for bribing spirit guardians. Everything a dead emperor needs to continue conquering in whatever comes next. Then come the horses, 40 of them, the Khan's personal herd. Beautiful animals that follow the army across continents. One by one, they're led to the grave edge. The mercy stroke is quick, practiced. They fall in patterns around where their master will lie, still serving even in death. The Khan's body, preserved but beginning to show mortality's claim, is lowered carefully. The shamans chant in the old language, words that hurt your ears and make your eyes water. Real power or theatre, you can't tell, don't want to tell. Sealing the tomb is harder than digging it. Each stone placed feels like accepting your own death. When the last earth is packed, when the surface is restored to natural appearance, you realize you're looking at your own grave too, just bigger, just shared. The Chinese engineers reveal their final contribution, devices that will kill any who disturb this place. Mechanical traps, chemical surprises, deadfalls that will function long after builders become dust. They demonstrate on a captured deer. The animal dies in ways that make hardened warriors flinch. Then begins the final phase. The shamans drink first, from jade cups containing something that makes them smile before falling. They knew from the beginning, accepted it as price for the honor of burying the Khan. Their bodies are arranged respectfully, then burned. No traces. The engineers go next, offering their cups to each other like toast at a feast. They discuss technical matters until the poison takes hold. Professional to the end. More bodies for the pyre that now burns continuously, fed by dried wood carried for this purpose. Time for the warriors to choose order, the captain announces. You understand. Can't have 40 men dying at once. Too chaotic. Too much chance someone escapes, breaks oath, reveals location. It must be orderly, professional. Like everything else in the Khan's service, groups of 5 are designated. You're in the 8th group, almost last. Honor or curse, hard to tell. You'll watch 35 brothers die before your turn. Watch them choose death over dishonor. Watch them keep faith with a dead man's wish. The first group goes quickly. Veterans all, they understand efficiency. Position themselves for clean shots. Nod when ready. 5 arrows, 5 deaths, 5 more bodies for the pyre. No drama. No hesitation. Just duty completing itself. By the 3rd group, the young warrior breaks. Not running, there's nowhere to go, but sobbing for the life he'll never have, the child he'll never meet. He apologizes, tries to compose himself. Can't quite manage it. Let him speak. You tell the others. We're all thinking it. And he does. About dreams deferred. About wives who'll wonder. About children who'll grow up fatherless. About the absolute waste of 40 lives for one secret. His words hang in the mountain air like accusation. Then, composed, he stands and takes his position. His group completes their duty. His tears freeze on dead cheeks before the pyre takes them. Somehow, his breakdown makes the rest easier. Acknowledging the cost makes paying it bearable. Your group's turn approaches as shadows lengthen. Only 10 men left alive. The pyre now huge, consuming evidence of loyalty that will never be recorded. The smoke rises straight in still air, a column connecting earth to sky. It has been an honor, Batu, the scarred veteran says. He's in your group, ending as you travelled, together. You position yourselves in the agreed pattern. Each man responsible for one other. No one left behind to weaken. The young warrior who saved your life in Bukhara nods readiness. You draw, aim at his heart, wait for the signal. The moment stretches. 5 men about to become nothing. 5 stories ending. 5 families who'll wander forever. For what? For the abstract idea that somewhere in these mountains, a conqueror sleeps undisturbed. The signal comes. Your arrow flies true. The veteran falls clean. Around you, others complete their duty. Then pain, sharp and brief, as promised arrow finds your heart. The cold ground rises to meet you. Blood tastes of copper and conclusion. But you're still aware, still thinking, as cold creeps in. The last 2 men move among the fallen, ensuring no one suffers. Professional mercy to the end. Then they face each other, the final witnesses. A brief conversation you can't hear. Nods of understanding. 2 arrows. Silence. Except not quite. You're still here, consciousness fading but present. Watching smoke rise, hearing wind through peaks, feeling life ebb into ground that will hold this secret forever. The wooden sword boy appears one last time, not accusing now, but welcoming, as if saying all warriors end the same, in earth, in silence, in service, to causes they barely understand. Your last thought is oddly comforting. The Khan's grave will never be found, not because of traps or curses or hidden locations, but because 40 men loved duty more than life. That kind of loyalty can't be bought, can't be tortured out, can't be discovered by accident. It must be given freely. completely. The smoke rises, the wind carries ashes. Snow begins to fall, covering traces. By spring, there will be nothing here but grass and wildflowers, and the weight of kept promises. 800 years later, they're still looking. Satellites scan. Ground radar probes. Historians theorize. But they search for the wrong thing. They look for a place when they should look for an absence. They seek markers where erasure was the point. Genghis Khan sleeps where 40 warriors agreed he should, nowhere and everywhere, protected by the ultimate security system. Not walls or guards or treasure. Just the honor of men who understood that some secrets are worth more than life. And that's why his grave will never be found. Because we made sure of it, with our blood, with our silence, with our bones that guard nothing and everything forever. The empire lived, the Khan became legend, and 40 men became wind through grass, rain on stone, the whisper that says some mysteries should remain mysterious. We were the last to know. We took that knowledge with us, and in the end, that's the only monument that matters, the one made of absence, sealed with souls, guarded by ghosts who kept their word. Sweet dreams, listeners, and remember, when you seek what shouldn't be found, you might find only what shouldn't be sought. Some doors close from the inside, some secrets bury themselves. We did.